Welcome to the Ari Hoffman Show on Talk Radio 570 KVI, your home for the politically homeless, streaming live at KVI.com and the KVI app. If you want to be part of the most dangerous show on the airwaves, call or text the Warrior Injury Law Studio line at 206-421-5757. That's 206-421-5750. Democrat congressional members decide they're skipping out on State of the Union. Maybe we should invite them to Daniel's Broiler with us. But before we get to any of that, here's a story you're not going to get anywhere else.
Talk Radio 570 KVI, an Ari Hoffman Show exclusive.
Do you remember 2 weeks ago, before the Super Bowl, we got news that Governor Bob Ferguson was meeting with Adam Silver, the commissioner of the NBA. And immediately the Seattle media, oh, are the Sonics coming back? Are the Sonics coming back? Oh, my God. Click Daniels almost had a complete apoplectic shock from this. Oh, my God, the Sonics might be coming back. This is it. They're going to make the announcement. We're getting the Sonics back. Remember what I said that day? I said, I bet you the NBA got wind of Bob Ferguson's taxes. I bet you this is one of these calm down meetings, because the way the media was being told, they were spinning it for Bob Ferguson. They were just picking up his narrative and running with it. Oh, it's just a get to know you meeting. You remember this? Just so we can get to know each other. Bob Ferguson's been in office a year. The biggest political win he could deliver for Washington is bringing back the Seattle Supersonics. But I said to myself, this doesn't make a lot of sense. Why is he having this meeting now? What's going on? So right then and there, I filed a public disclosure request. Now, usually public disclosure requests take weeks, months, sometimes years to get back. This one, I cannot believe how quickly I got it back. Maybe it was because I was very, very specific on my request, where I wanted everything about the meeting on this date at this time between Governor Bob Ferguson and Adam Silver, looking for the words NBA, looking for the words Sonics. Now, what's funny is I got a call from the public disclosure person yesterday. They said, Ari, we just want you to know we're not head faking you, but we're sending you all these documents. It's mostly just Zoom meetings. We don't want you to think that we're hiding anything from you. There's another installment coming out. No problem. Send it on over. I'll take a look at it. And they were right. Over 600 pages of this public disclosure request, which I haven't gone through all of them yet, but I just started doing searches for keywords. So I type in tax. What pops up? So it's Zoom meeting, Zoom meeting, Zoom meeting, Zoom meeting, Zoom meeting. So you better believe that now I've asked for the recordings of all those Zoom meetings. What's in the documents? Joe Imperkoven, who is Bob Ferguson's policy advisor, has apparently been in communication with Todd Lewicki, CEO of both the Seattle Kraken and Oak View Group, the lead investment group, working to bring the Sonics back to Seattle, and Samantha Holloway, owner and chair of the Seattle Kraken. Now, you may say to yourselves, what do the Kraken have to do with this? Why are they involved in this? Well, number one, you're going to have to share an arena, because that's where that's where the Sonics would go. It makes sense to put the basketball team in there. It doesn't make sense to put them in any of the other stadiums around here, so put them in there. But also, owners of sports teams, they're all buddies, and they all want to make sure they get the schedule the right way, and they don't tread on each other's territory, so everybody makes money, and you have to consult the other leagues because you want to make sure you're not taking away a piece of a pie. So here's what it says. Todd and Samantha want to share a few high-level points for your awareness ahead of your meeting with NBA Commissioner Adam Silver. Commissioner Silver is fully committed to returning the Sonics to Seattle, but emphasizes the importance of doing it right this time to ensure the team's long-term stability in the city. Now, what that basically means is, well, we want to make sure they have a nice stadium. We want to make sure there's an audience there for them. We want to make sure we have the TV rights, all that kind of stuff. We want to make sure we have enough sponsors. The commissioner will continue to refrain from making any public commitments until a formal deal is finalized. Success hinges on securing the right investors and ensuring the city's infrastructure and environment support sustainable success beyond the initial deal. Samantha, once again, that's the owner of the Kraken, highlighted several key factors they and the commissioner are closely monitoring. 1, the high cost of maintaining a basketball team. Sure, you got payroll expenses. They need nice hotels. Got to pay for flights. Got to do transportation, coach buses, security. Absolutely. Very expensive. Next, the impact of employer layoffs, i.e., fewer employees equals fewer ticket sales. You know what this means, right? What have we been talking about for months, if not years now? The layoffs that were bound to hit the Seattle area, especially in the tech sector, because last year you had dozens of major companies, including the Mariners, including the Seahawks, including the Kraken, warning Democrats, if you guys pass these taxes, we don't know if we can stay here. We don't know if we can keep the jobs we have. If you pass the payroll tax, we're going to have to lay people off. Seattle already passed a tax like that, and Amazon responded by moving to Bellevue. Now, where do we see all these layoffs? Now they're hitting the entire state with it, the tech sector. They can blame AI all they want. There's plenty of things AI can't do. It's a convenient excuse. What's really happening is these companies are reacting to the taxes. They're hiring people elsewhere. Why are they not hiring them there? Here. And there's already been close to over 20,000 layoffs in the tech sector this year alone. Also, if these companies are moving and people are given the option to move as well, and we're losing 40 taxpayers a day at last count, that's less fans to buy your jerseys, to buy your hot dogs, to buy your soda, to buy your tickets, to subscribe to whatever channel is going to have the Sonics on it. Right there. That is a shot across the bow, acknowledging what's happening economically here. Then it gets worse. Quote, challenges posed by the millionaire's tax on recruiting top players. How long have we been saying this for? If you pass the millionaire's tax, then free agents are going to want to sign with other teams in places where they don't have these taxes. So you really like that Seahawks Super Bowl win? Well, you're not going to be able to get top talent anymore because the top talent is going to say, where's a state where I don't have to pay income tax? By the way, this affects UW and colleges as well because now you have these athletes kind of get paid for being on these college teams. They're not going to choose UW. You now understand how this bad tax policy is now jeopardizing us ever getting good players and us ever winning anything ever again. This was specifically cited by the NBA commissioner. Now, what's funny about this is I remember a couple weeks ago, Brandy Cruz was doing a Q&A with Bob Ferguson. She was down at the Washington legislature. She specifically asked him about this. Now, the day that Brandy Cruz did this is the day before the date on these documents where they said they gave them to Bob Ferguson so he could read them. You think he wasn't involved in prepping them beforehand? Of course not. Brandy asked this question the day before Bob Ferguson saw the documents I just read to you.
And kind of having a Dwayne Wade to Miami sort of situation where the team doesn't do as well and business suffers as a result. So how concerned are you about that, given there is history of players moving from less tax-friendly states to more tax-friendly states?
Sure, so I've not seen that specifically. Brandy had to take a look at it. What generally that issue, I'd say. I think what I'd say is that most states have income tax. And so football players still play in states where there is an income tax. But that said, I think what I would say is that from my standpoint, and I think this is true for all of us who are working on this, by the way, is that we're trying to be thoughtful about what's the amount and who's paying it, what are the impacts of that. I had a meeting yesterday with folks in the business community to talk about that. So we're certainly aware of that. And so we're going to just have to try and structure this in a way that makes the most sense, that is the most fair to address the challenges we're facing. And I'll check more into that as well. Do you have time for one more? Yeah.
So his rationale is, well, other states do it, so we're going to do it too. Sam Darnold, the quarterback for the Super Bowl champion Seahawks, he didn't get paid to play in the Super Bowl because all the money he got paid, he had to spend in taxes in California because they have a so-called jock tax. which means you have to pay for the days you work in California. And the Democrats are discussing doing the exact same thing here. So, yes, this is going to affect getting big talent. Why would a player sign a $750 million contract like we had a guy do last year with the New York Mets if you're going to come to Washington State and they're going to take a big chunk of that? Wouldn't you sign with a different team? Here's something else. Keep going down this. Next issue. Whether Seattle remains an attractive and investor-friendly environment, noting recent investor relocations to Florida. So they are tracking how sponsors, investors in a team are moving out of state, which means high earners are leaving Washington. The NBA, they're no fools. They want to make money. They're tracking all this. For all I know, they're following my social media account. They are tracking all this, and they are saying, if you have less sponsors, if you have less corporate investors, if you have less people watching your games, maybe Seattle isn't as attractive as it was before. Then, scroll down. Samantha, once again the owner of the Kraken, stressed the importance of the commissioner recognizing that Climate Pledge Arena is fully prepared for basketball, not just hockey. Great, wonderful, fantastic. Both Samantha and Todd noted that state assistance could be critical, particularly in securing a practice facility, which is a key consideration for the commissioner. If the Sonics come here, it's because some backroom deal was made. So right now, the rumor is that the practice facility is going to go in at Northgate. I have to look up who owns Northgate, who owns the practice facility for the Kraken. I have to do some research into all this. But what this means, does this mean they're going to use our taxpayer dollars to build a practice facility for the Sonics? Would you want your money being spent on that? Because if you can afford a basketball team, I don't really feel like using my taxpayer dollars to build you a practice center. Kevin, you live up there. You hear anything about this?
Come on, help me out here. Because listen, what I've been told is as soon as that gets done and gets put in there, all the stuff that's being built around it, I want to get a Din Tai Fung up there. I want to get more restaurants up there. Ever since they closed the mall there, I mean, there's no Azteca there anymore. I mean, come on, people.
Yeah, I see.
Can't you help me get some more restaurants in my area?
I get it. You want everybody to spend the money on the practice arena, the taxpayer money on the practice arena, so you can get an Azteca up there.
Yeah, they're supposed to build out all around it. I've seen all the plans and stuff. Let's get it. You can come too. Wait, you can't.
I can have a Coke. I can have a Coke. If there's a place with an old fashioned, I can have that. But I'll live vicariously through you.
You know, when you go by Northgate there, pop off the exit.
Go visit Mr. KVI himself at Azteca. You can head on over. You can get some food with him. Great. So we're going to put that up there. How much is that going to cost us? What backroom deals are they making on all this? Finally, Samantha and Todd want the commissioner to understand that the city of Seattle is ready for the Sonics' return and that you maintain an excellent relationship with them and city leadership. Okay, you know what this really was? This was okay, Seattle's probably one of the finalists. Here's where we're going to put the basketball teams, Seattle and Las Vegas. But the NBA is getting really, really worried because all these taxes are spooking the ownership groups, and they are thinking of other places. Now, when this news broke yesterday, and when the Seattle Seahawks announced that they're selling the team yesterday, people like me, people like Brandy, others in our world started saying, what's keeping the Seahawks here? The Seahawks could leave at any time. And we got yelled at on social media by a whole bunch of lefty sports influencers, commentators. I don't know what you would call them. But they're like, you clearly don't know anything about sports. That's not why the Sonics left. All right, let's be very, very clear why the Sonics left for a second. One, they weren't getting the arena they wanted because they didn't want to spend our taxpayer dollars on the arena. That's number one. Number two, the reason the Sonics left, none of you went to the games anymore. Can we be real about this for a second? I went to Sonics games. That place was always empty. People go to stadiums if they like a team, regardless if it's nice or not nice. You ever been to Fenway Park? Fenway Park may be iconic. Iconic is another word for old. It doesn't matter if it's a new stadium. It matters if you want to see what's going on inside that stadium. People went to Shea Stadium where the Mets played, even though it was a dump, for years because they wanted to watch the Mets play. And when the Mets sucked, they didn't go. So when the Sonics were bad, they didn't go. If you put money into the team and the team's good, people will then go. Yes, Major League, the plot of the movie Major League happened to our Sonics. And he gave him an opening and they said we can make more money in Oklahoma City. So when we were talking about the Seahawks possibly relocating under a new ownership group, do you guys remember when they first sold the Sonics, when Howard Schultz first sold them? And the new owner says, I'm not going to move the team. We're going to keep them right here in Seattle. What was it, a year later? 2 years later? Bye-bye. Look what they offered me over here. Bye-bye now. Now, you guys think this can't happen to us? Democrat Mayor Brandon Johnson made an announcement today. He's very, very upset. Why? Because the Chicago Bears are moving out of Illinois. The Chicago Bears. And that's the end of his political career, by the way. That's it. Youth, forget about all the crime, all the other problems. They are out of Chicago. Now, the new stadium is about 30 minutes away, just over the border in Indiana. So they're claiming we're still in Chicagoland. We're still in the area. Gee, why did they move out of Illinois and out of Chicago right across the border into Indiana? 'Cause it's cheaper. Listen to this mayor knowing his political career is over.
Is my face straight? Okay. All right, let me keep a straight face here. The Bears belong in the city of Chicago. The Chicago Bears belong in the city of Chicago, right? And
wrong. They belong to the ownership group. They belong to the ownership group. They don't belong to the city of Chicago. Otherwise, we would still have a team called the Seattle Sonics.
I've said repeatedly that the door is always open for conversations, and Kevin Warren did call me yesterday. We didn't get a chance to connect, and I still firmly believe that their best position is in Chicago, and it's evidence. The evidence is clearly speaking for itself.
Yeah. 5 years they've been trying to talk to you guys about this, and you guys haven't been interested in talking to them. So finally they go, we're out of here, which means yesterday the mayor found out about it and said, quick, I need to make an emergency phone call. Where were you the last 5 years? Oh, you've only been in office for 3. Okay, where were you the last 3 years on this? Why do you think they're moving? They're moving because it's more financially viable, but they want to keep their fan base, so they're not going very far, but they're just going over the border to get away from your taxes, to get away from your crime, to get away from your insanity. What, you think we can't have the St. Louis Seahawks? I hear they're looking for a football team to come back. There's other places that would want teams. You think there isn't the possibility of them leaving? Of course there is. And why? Because of the Democrats' disastrous tax policy. I have a question. Do you think the Democrats will finally wake up if the Sonics don't come here? If Adam Silver announces in March, like what they've been predicting, that he's going to announce the expansion teams in March, if he goes, the 2 teams that will be getting a basketball team are Las Vegas and Calgary, or whatever it is, wherever he decides to put this team, wherever they go, and it's not Seattle, after this information comes out, do you even want the Sonics coming back after all this? Do you want the Seahawks to stay? Me, personally, I want more sports. But I understand completely when an ownership group says, no, we're out of here because of these insane policies. I saw somebody yesterday say, hey, maybe if we get everybody in Seattle to pitch in and we all contribute a little bit sum of money, we can all be the ownership group of the Seahawks. Yeah, you'll never win anything again. The team will be bankrupt in 5 or 10 years because the dummy heads, maybe sooner, 3 years, because the dummy heads around here will run it the way they run the city, picking the most incompetent people, not who's best for the job. It can happen here. And now we have the documents proving that the concerns of the NBA are based on the Democrats' failed policies. And then, just to cap off this little segment here, I posted all this information on social media last night. It's all there. Posted the documents, too. You can find it at Ari Hoffman Official on Facebook and Instagram, the Hofffather over on Twitter, and an article just went up at kvi.com. All right there. Nobody from the mainstream media has touched it yet. Why? Because they know how bad it makes the Democrats and Bob Ferguson look, and they don't want to lose their press passes. They don't want to be in the doghouse with the governor or with the Democrats. They still want access, and they want the funding for their news outlets. And this story makes them look really, really bad because the NBA is considering not putting the Sonics here because of Democrats' failed policies. Do you want the Sonics coming back? Do you want the Seahawks staying here? Do you think any of this will have an impact on the voters of Washington for the next election if we don't get the Sonics, if we do lose the Seahawks? Give me a call or a text at 206-421-5757. That's 206-421-5757. When we come back, your calls, your emails, your texts, plus also now you can commit suicide with things you buy from Amazon? We'll tell you what's going on when we come back. You're listening to the Ari Hoffman Show on Talk Radio 570 KVI. Welcome back to the Ari Hoffman Show. Just a reminder that State of the Union is now sold out. If you don't want to miss out on future events, my friends, make sure to head on over to KVI.com, sign up to become a KVI Insider, so that way you're on our email and text list and you find out about all our events and you don't miss out on something as epic as State of the Union is going to be. Now, if you can't be there in person, and some of you said you can't be, we're going to make sure to stream it for you. So first of all, we are going to be live from Daniel's Broiler leading up to the State of the Union. That's from 3 to 6 p.m. right here on Talk Radio 570 KVI, streaming at KVI.com and on the KVI app. And, of course, we'll have the video going on all my social media platforms if you listen or watch the show that way. After the State of the Union, we're going to have an all-star panel with some of my friends, whose names you definitely know, analyzing our president's speech. Going to be a lot of fun. Plus, by then, I'll have had a couple drinks, so I assume it'll be even more fun because I can do that on streaming, not on air. So, anywho, make sure you are listening that day. We got a lot of reaction to this Sonic story. This from the 206. Thanks for the real talk on sports teams in Seattle. You're right. This town is diluted in La La Land. I'm sorry there aren't more hearing the real truth. I've been through this many times. I was around. I know exactly what will happen when the pilots left town. And guess what? It was the city's fault. Yeah, isn't their stadium now a Lowe's near my house? Actually, I should say it's a Lowe's filled with drug addicts who are across the street at a homeless shelter or hygiene station. I was around when the city promised to get the first NFL NHL expansion from 6 teams, and Seattle was promised one then, passed over, took 60 years to finally get an NHL team. You are so right about the Sonics. I get upset when people blame Howard Schultz. So he's not an angel, but he tried to make it work, and he was cut off at the knees. Keep this up. Maybe if people listen, they will keep the Seahawks. Yeah, a lot of people feel the same way. This one here from Bonnie. Hey, Ari, I'm still not over them selling the Sonics in 2006, and they went to Oklahoma. I think this deal is dead. And is Seattle, wait, what does that say? Oh, Seattle is a shell of the city it used to be. And if Seattle isn't careful, they will lose our beloved Seahawks to another city. As far as I'm concerned, our Seahawks is the only thing where we can leave politics at the door. This is the things we're getting. People who this means a lot to them. This means a lot to them. Tell you what, guys, you want to do something and try and fix this? We're gonna do what we do here. So I put up a graphic on my social media. Bring back the Sonics, stop the Democrats' income tax. Right? Because, hey, the NBA is saying it's going to be a problem. The bill is actually Senate Bill SB 6346. That's the income tax. SB 6346. You can go on leg.wa.gov and you can sign in con against it, which means you don't want to be part of it. Or number 2, you can call 1-800-562-6000. That's 1-800-562-6000 and say no to Senate Bill 6346. If you don't remember the number, you just say no to the income tax. Also, something else for everybody is that they built all this transit assuming they're getting the Sonics back. I remember one of our Seattle City Council members went off to join the NHL to become their transit guy so that we could have more transit for the hockey team. Guess what, guys? When the monorail shuts down at a certain point at night, that doesn't mean you have mass transit. It means you have less options. Speaking of transit, we go to the Warrior Injury Law studio line, take a call from our friend Transit Joe. Transit Joe, what's up, man?
I got a crazy idea, and I need you to hear me out. I think Sound Transit should buy the Seattle Seahawks and use the profits to cover the car tabs for everybody. You think that sounds good?
Okay. Let's do this for a second here, Joe. Let's be real. I know you like Sound Transit, okay? Number 1, I don't think taxpayer money should buy the Seahawks. Number 2, if they run it like they run Sound Transit, immediately the escalators at Climate Pledge Arena will be broken. And then they'll let all the homeless people move in right away. And then after that, the games won't be on schedule anymore. And then the stadium will probably break down. Does that sound about right?
Sounds absolutely incorrect. I believe that the Seattle Seahawks will all be re-signed, and Dow Constantine will hire a new a special assistant to connect Sound Transit to Seattle headquarters.
Sure. And then they'll up my car tabs more, and then Dow Constantine will negotiate for himself a few billion-dollar salary. Hey, by the way, did you know that he got put on the board of governors over at University of Washington?
Oh, yes, I broke the news to you, and I think it's great he's a regent also. But I would certainly make clear that if Sound Transit buys the Seahawks, all the profits from jerseys, ticket sales, and such will go to paying to eliminate car tabs So just so everyone's happy and loves Sound Transit and yells, "Go Sound Transit!" like Transit Joe.
I love your optimism. I love your naivete. I love when you call the show, Joe. Appreciate you being part of the show. You want to be part of the show, give us a call or text at 206-421-5757. That's 206-421-5757. Yeah, I don't think that's the best idea with the Sound Transit. Meanwhile, I did promise you this story. So there's a new lawsuit. Amazon is facing a negligence lawsuit after there are suicides that have been linked to toxic chemical bought online. Now, I've only done a cursory search of this lawsuit, only had a chance to read it a little bit. But for me right now, what it seems like is these people want to commit suicide. They knew they could buy the stuff on Amazon, and they did it that way, and now they're mad there aren't enough guardrails on Amazon to stop you from buying these chemicals you can kill yourself with. I understand that Amazon has the, if you bought this, you might be interested in that, and according to the lawsuit, they're alleging it's other suicide products. But let me ask you a question. Aren't the Democrats here the ones in favor of assisted suicide? Whose side do you think the Democrats are going to take? Big corporation or the people suing against assisted suicide? Oh, their heads are going to explode. Going to be fun to watch. You know what else is going to be fun to watch? The Democrats' reaction to State of the Union. We're all going to do it together at Stake of the Union. But a few Democrats won't be there when we come back, my friends. Some of our local congressional delegation says they are boycotting the State of the Union. I wonder if we can get them to come out to Daniel's Broiler. We'll tell you all about it when we come back. You're listening to the Ari Hoffman Show on Talk Radio 570 KVI. Well, I'm excited for the State of the Union. I love the State of the Union. As I say all the time, I love the theater. I don't care who the president is. It's always a lot of fun. Who's mad? Who's happy? Who's clapping? Who's shaking hands? What stunts are they going to pull? Look, you could theoretically deliver the State of the Union and fulfill your constitutional obligation. by buying Congress a copy of the New York Post or the Washington Post or the New York Times. That's really it. All the rest of this is theater, and I love it. I'm so excited for it. And I'm glad we're going to have drinks at Daniel's Broiler. I plan on getting the executive order. Yes, the executive order is an old-fashioned. I hear we have some other fun drinks on the menu, like margaritas with extra ice in capitals. Oh, it's going to be, I don't want to spoil the rest of the drinks for you. It's going to be awesome at Daniel's Broiler. Now, for those of you who aren't going to be there, remember you can watch it on my streaming channels. Also, we're going to be broadcasting from 3 to 6 p.m. live right here on Talk Radio 570 KVI. You can also download the KVI app and stream at kvi.com. But apparently, the Democrats have run out of shtick. So 1 year with President Trump, what was it? They all wore white or something, right? I remember that nonsense. Last year it was the paddles. Do you remember the paddles? With Rashida Tlaib looking all mad, sitting there putting up all the anti-Israel stuff, and Pramila Jayapal looking all mad. I mean, I think that's just how their faces look. But apparently this year, the Democrats can't come up with any shtick. So what's their new shtick? We're not going to be there. we're just not going to show up. So Senator Patty Murray says, President Trump is a disgrace. He's easily the most corrupt president in American history by a long shot. Hey, Patty, did you buy any of Hunter Biden's finger paintings? Yes? No? Maybe so? Just kind of curious. I'm not attending his State of the Union to listen to him ramble and lie. Instead, I'll be sharing the ways he's hurting hard-working Americans. Okay. You know what, Patty? I'm going to give you a microphone. I'll tell you what. I'm going to reach out to her office right after the show today, and they have the Request the Senator attend an event. Should I invite Senator Patty Murray to State of the Union? Yes or no? Give us a call or a text, 206-421-5757. That's 206-421-5757. You know what she's really worried about? She's worried about the fraud. She keeps demonizing all the people exposing the fraud. She's worried about it. She was out there again today, demonizing the people exposing the fraud.
We need to get real for a second. We can't just assume a child care center is committing fraud because they won't let any random person show up, shout with a camera, and come in and demand to see the kids. Do we really want child care centers to let in any weirdo if they yell loud enough? Of course not. That is very dangerous. Still, President Trump is treating conspiracy like gospel today, and blind accusations are not accountability. Witch hunts are not oversight. Instead of more accountability, what we are seeing is more harassment of child care providers as self-appointed vigilantes. They show up with cameras, they bang on the door, they peep through the windows, and demand to see kids. That, to me, is deeply alarming. We do need accountability, absolutely, but that goes for everyone, including the president, and everyone who's fanning the flames of conspiracy.
Whoa. Did she just call me a vigilante? That sounds really cool, by the way. Yes! I've waited my whole life to be Batman. Oh, this is great. I got the Batmobile car already with my Dodge Charger. I got Mr. KVI as a sidekick. We're going to swing from windows. We'll get some tights. Is Catwoman around anywhere? Catwoman or Poison Ivy? I haven't decided which one. Comic book, TV, or movie? Which one we going with here? Yes! We're vigilantes. Hey, Patty, Booby, let me tell you that you clearly have never actually seen the video. She hasn't seen the video because she doesn't know about the Quality Leering Center. You don't even have to go inside to know it's fraudulent. I have not shown up to any of these daycares, and I can tell you which ones are fraudulent. I've exposed a bunch of them online without even visiting the location because I can tell you whether or not there's a daycare at a location or not, whether or not they're registered with the Secretary of State or not, whether or not they're registered with the actual people who are supposed to be doing oversight of these places or not. You can check with the neighbors to find out if anybody's actually there. No, Patty Murray's mad because she's worried. She is worried that her ties might be exposed. I wonder if she has any ties to what's going on. I wonder if she knows about this because you know what? All this fraud doesn't happen without people looking the other way. That's what we found out in Minneapolis. The governor knew about it. The AG knew about it. The mayor knew about it. Ilhan Omar knew about it. Everybody was looking the other way. I guarantee that the fraud is bigger here in Washington and that now Washington lawmakers are petrified, which is why they're not even investigating it. Look, at least in Minneapolis, some people went to jail. Here, the auditor, nope, we're not going to investigate it. Never mind the fact that we found millions of dollars unaccounted for. AG, not going to investigate it. You're a bunch of racists. Bob Ferguson, not going to investigate it. Katie Wilson, not going to investigate it. And you're a bunch of racists. Oh, now we're vigilantes. Now we're serial harassers. Wait, which one was it? It was Lori Jenkins, Speaker of the Washington House, that said we're out there attacking daycare workers. And when I called her out on it, her office said, no, you read the transcript wrong. I'm like, oh, give me a break. Well, Patty Murray is not the only one who is going to be boycotting the State of the Union. The other one who says she's not going to the speech of President Trump, our very own Democrat from Hamas, Pramila Jayapal. She says she's not going either. Today, she put up a video saying she's checking on the ICE detention facilities and they won't let her in. Well, yeah, you're not going to let them bring, escape tools over to your friends in Hamas, your terrorist buddies who might be in there. Of course not. So, should we invite Pramila Jayapal and Patty Murray to State of the Union? Hey, I'll let them be on the All-Star. What do you guys think? Should we invite Patty Murray and Pramila Jayapal to be the counterpoint at State of the Union? Give us a call or a text at 206-421-5757. That's 206-421-5757. Lee says, oh, yeah. I just imagine the Kool-Aid man. Oh, yeah. Invite her, this one from John in Lakewood. Invite her, but she has to answer questions. Ah, yes. Oh, this one's not nice. All right, I'm taking out the name calling, but yes, please invite Patty to State of the Union. That's from Sandy. Yeah, this one here. Ari, yes, invite her. This is from the 206. If she orders a steak, ask her if she hates cattle. Julie says, Ari, please do invite Patty Murray to the dinner. Very good, very good. Dude in BC says the Batmobile is a Lincoln. Okay, let me be clear about this. The Lincoln Futura, which was a concept car that never actually went to production, was the 1960s Batmobile. There have been many Batmobiles since then. And I would argue in the most recent Batman movie, that sucker looks like a Dodge Challenger. It's not, but it looks like it is. So I would argue that I am closer to the Batmobile now. I would just say that. My car's all black. It's very slick, very fun. Okay, little movie trivia you get here. When we come back, my friends, lots more to discuss. Department of Justice is targeting woke insanity in more school districts. We'll tell you which ones when we come back. You're listening to the Ari Hoffman Show on Talk Radio 570 KVI. I love these texts I'm getting in about State of the Union. Now you guys want me to invite Chuck Schumer? I'm not inviting Chuck Schumer. I want him looking all angry there like an evil crow. He just kind of, not crone, crow. He sits there in the legislature looking all mad. That guy clearly doesn't appreciate good meat. We saw how he barbecues a hamburger, okay? Look, I keep the kosher, right? I don't have the cheese on my hamburger, and even I know you do not put cheese on a raw hamburger on the grill. I don't know a lot, but I know that one, right? Fact check me on that.
Well, it might be like a beef tartare or something like that.
This was no beef tartare.
Maybe he's going to crack an egg and mix it all together.
This wasn't that,
sure?
Sir. This guy looks like he has never been near a barbecue in his life. I've never seen somebody so uncomfortable around a barbecue since the last time I invited a vegetarian over to my house and I point at them and laugh. Ha ha, ha ha, ha ha, ha ha, because we like dead cow. Yes. This one here. This one. Dude in BC. Chargers weren't around yet. No, dude in BC, you're not following my logic. My car is more like the modern Batmobile, not the old Batmobile. All right. I'm not going to get into Batmobile legislation. Not doing that right now. Anywho, Department of Justice. They are now opening investigations into 2 new school districts, aside from our very own Puyallup School District over the trans wrestler that allegedly sexually assaulted a girl while wrestling in girls' sports. Oh, by the way, update on that story. I hear the boy dropped out. The boy who was competing in the state tournament, he's out. And now a girl who should have been there in the first place is going to be the one who's going to take his spot in the tournament. Great news. Huge news. Also, I think Brandy reported earlier this week that now there might be charges coming against that boy. We'll find out. We'll follow it. So, the Justice Department civil rights decision has opened investigations into 3 Michigan public school districts to determine whether they are teaching lessons that include sexual orientation and gender identity, related content, and if so, whether parents were told they could opt their children out. Because don't forget, my friends, we had a Supreme Court case which said you have to allow an opt-out. People do not have to learn this garbage. Hey, if all these school districts are having all these financial problems, maybe we should just stop teaching this stuff? What's the point of having it in the schools? The districts under review are the Detroit Public Schools Community District, Godfrey Lee Public Schools, and the Lansing School District, which the department collectively described as Michigan school districts. The inquiries will focus on instruction in grades pre-K through 12, according to the department's announcement. You know, I kind of wonder how the DOJ got wind of this. Let's remember, it was a Muslim family that said they didn't want their kids learning this stuff. Muslims, typically, very traditional. Michigan, big Muslim population, especially in places like Lansing. I wonder if the Muslim population is saying, we don't want this stuff in the public schools. Now the Democrats are between a rock and the hard place. We know that they do anything the Muslim community wants, especially out there in Michigan, but they also want to push their DEI agenda. The districts under review apparently were teaching grades pre-K through 12, this kind of stuff. Why do you need to learn about this stuff in preschool, kindergarten, first grade, second grade, third grade, fourth grade, fifth grade? When was my first sex ed class? Was it sixth grade? Something like that? Now, listen, boys, I think it was the coach. Your body's going through changes. Here's some deodorant. I think that was our first one, right?
Fifth
Something
grade
like that?
for me.
Fifth grade?
Fifth grade for me.
Yeah. Fifth, sixth grade, somewhere around that age. I don't have a problem with that. Yeah, you're going through I remember I was filling in for this startup school, and I said, these kids need some kind of phys ed program. And you look at me now, you go, you were teaching phys ed? Yes. I would show up every day and do physical education with the kids. And I remember one day I came in, and I said, boys, you all smell to high heaven. Here is some deodorant. Talk to your parents. Figure it out. That was Ari Hoffman's sex education for everybody. That was, I'd say it's health and fitness.
I was going to say, I don't think that's really sex ed. I think that's more like, general hygiene.
Hygiene. Yes, you all smell terrible. Here, have some Right Guard. that was how I handled it. Yes, if you want to say I taught this stuff in the private school, I did. I corrupted those students with Right Guard. If investigators find the districts are providing what the department called sexual orientation and gender ideology content in the classrooms, the probe will examine whether families were informed of their right to excuse students from that instruction. The investigations will also assess whether districts restrict access to what the department described as single-sex intimate spaces, including bathrooms and locker rooms based on biological sex. Yes, absolutely. Investigate away. Investigate away. Why are we still doing this nonsense? Why are we still doing this? Now, oftentimes parents don't know they can opt out of a lot of this stuff, and sometimes they don't even know it's in the curriculum. When I was at the Future 42 conference that they did last year in Renton, it was great. It was wonderful. They brought in Abigail Schreier. Abigail Schreier, I was there with my wife. Abigail Schreier was there, and she was talking about how there was a form that you don't even know your kids are filling out, that you may not even know you filled out, because as parents, we get tons and tons of forms, and it's all about mental health. And then if your kid ranks a certain way, then, oh, well, we got to refer them to University of Washington. We got to refer them to these specialists. And also these forms were giving kids ideas. We didn't even know they existed. Turns out they were giving them out of my kid's private school. We actually called up the school. And it's not the school's fault. They get them from the state. They just send them out. The school's like, oh, yeah, we should really inform people. They sent out an email, I think a day or two later, you can opt out of these forms. We told every parent we possibly could. If your kid is in private or public school, make sure you tell the school you want your kid opted out of all these mental health forms. They are not good for the kids. They are to try and get the kids into the system. So, yeah, definitely opt your kids out of that. That's not the only school district that's under investigation for this stuff right now. The Department of Justice joined a lawsuit against L.A. public schools, alleging that they're discriminating against white students. Reverse racism, still racism. Reverse discrimination, still discrimination. This nonsense is still going on. They're just calling it different things. And that's why we need whistleblowers like you guys. If this stuff is happening in your kid's school district, send it to me, ari@kvi.com. That's ari@kvi.com. Not only will we make sure it gets to the right people, we'll have some fun with it on the show and call out these institutions. When we come back, my friends, lots more to discuss, including good news finally out of the legislature. Lots and lots of dead bills not moving forward. We'll tell you what they are when we come back. You're listening to the Ari Hoffman Show on Talk Radio 570 KVI. Welcome to the Ari Hoffman Show on Talk Radio 570 KVI, your home for the politically homeless, streaming live at KVI.com and the KVI app. If you want to be part of the most dangerous show on the airwaves, call or text the Warrior Injury Law Studio line at 206-421-5757. That's 206-421-5757. Coming up this hour, CAIR labels University of Washington a hostile campus. They gave you guys everything you wanted. What's hostile about them? But before we get to any of that, time for your daily dose of adrenaline.
You want me to stick this into my heart? Are you f***ing nuts?
So there is some good news coming out of the Washington State Legislature. A lot of bad bills are officially dead. Let's go through some of them. Now, mind you, they could do tricks to bring any of these back. But our friends over at Future 42 have a great list right here of what is dead. House Bill 2421, ban the selling of tires in 2035. How do you think that would have worked out? Yeah, let's just get rid of tires entirely with no plan of what to replace them. Wasn't there a Flintstones episode? Something. I remember there was something about why somebody went extinct, and they had rubber roads and concrete tires. I don't remember what cartoon that was, but I do remember that. Sure, we're just going to stop selling tires. No problem. You know what? Let's just ban rubber. Yeah, rubbers for everybody. Let's ban those too. Let's get rid of anything that has rubber in it. Let's just get rid of all that. Okay. House Bill 2100, the statewide jobs tax. Sure. Did our friends over in the Washington legislature get the memo about the Sonics, perhaps? Maybe. Oh, by the way, there was this one little thing I forgot to share with regard to the Bob Ferguson story. So what was funny to me was when I got this public disclosure request back, and I found out that Bob Ferguson's team had been prepping him on what he needed to say to the NBA commissioner, Adam Silver, to try and convince him to still keep the Sonics here. So we know they were talking about the income taxes and how bad it's going to be. And a reminder, call 1-800-562-6000. That's 1-800-562-6000 and say no, absolutely not to the income tax. Say no. If they say, do you mean the millionaire's tax? You say yes, but no, I don't want it in any way, shape, or form. I got some other documents too. Now, for politicians, if they have a good staff preps them on what they need to say to the person they're talking to. So, for example, you think politicians just remember everybody's names? No, they're given index cards that have the person's name, job, bio, where they may have met them from. So what was funny to me was in this public disclosure request I got back, it had the information they gave to Bob Ferguson for what he should say to NBA Commissioner Adam Silver. And it kind of reminded me of an old SNL skit. You tell me if it reminds you of this too. Okay, here we go. We'll start at the top. It says, here's when it was given to him, who prepared this. Topic is the meeting with Commissioner Silver, Thursday, February 5th, 11:15 on Zoom. Staff is not going to be attending. Okay. Executive summary. This phone call is for you to introduce yourself to the commissioner. Thank you. Excellent. Thank you. I know I may not like Turd Ferguson, but he's a little smarter than that. All right, 2. You have great interest in bringing the Sonics back to Seattle. Yes, you have great interest. What is this, Joe Biden over here? Stop. Repeat the line. Is that what this is here? Success hinges on securing the right investors and ensuring the city's infrastructure and environment support sustainable success beyond the initial deal. So downplay the taxes. Quickly, downplay the taxes. Downplay the job losses. Your continued support, along with legislative backing, will be invaluable moving forward. State assistance could be critical, particularly in securing a practice facility, which is a key consideration for the commissioner. Buy him off. Quickly, buy him off. But it's that first line that really cracks me up. You have great interest in bringing the Sonics back to Seattle. I don't know why. This just reminded me of Stuart Smalley. You're good enough. You're smart enough. And we really need the NBA to like you. Cracks me up. Are we going to lose the Sonics because of Bob Ferguson and the Democrats' tax policies? We may very well. All right, what other bills are dead? This one here, Senate Bill 5926. This one died very, very early. The one to hide daycare public records. This one didn't get very far, and this one, Senator Lisa Wellman, was already in trouble when all the Nick Shirley stuff went viral, when it turned out she had proposed this bill right after the Nick Shirley stuff, right after we found out there may be fraud in Washington, too. Yeah, that one never really had a chance. House Bill 1607, the bottle tax. Now, personally, I am triggered when they talk about a bottle tax. Not only because I don't want to spend more money, but I remember my father would save every bottle, can, everything in the house, every single one in plastic bags, and they were all thrown into a room in the house. And then every so often he would say, Ari, especially when I had my driver's license, he would say, Ari, take all the bags, take them down to the grocery store, and you can keep whatever change you get. So me and my siblings would be sitting there feeding these bottles into a machine. Now, what's funny is you think when you dispose of something in the recycling, you don't really give it a thought. You don't wash it out. You just kind of chuck it on in there, and then it goes bye-bye. So little stale old soda would be trickling down on me as I'm feeding these things into these machines. And that noise, I could still hear it, that crunching noise as you get your $1.25 back for whatever it is. Wow. Woohoo, I get to keep my $1.25. Yes, awesome. So, yeah, I'm really happy that one's gone. So other kids do not have to suffer as I suffered. Yes, that was suffering. Another one, House Bill 2489. This was the ban on clearing drug encampments. Yes, no more taxpayer-funded drug encampments. This is the one that would have stopped municipalities from clearing encampments because you would have had to follow state regulation on this one. This one was very, very, very unpopular. The other one that is also dead, and this one is huge news, by the way, my friends, the initiative killer. The initiative killer, this is the one where we're talking about they were trying to shut down Let's Go Washington. They were doing new restrictions on what you could and could not do with paid signature gatherers. So it's a really good thing that this thing's gone. But it also means that there's a lot more work for all of us to do. I mean, look, if they pass this income tax, and remember, you call 1-800-562-6000. That's 1-800-562-6000 and say no to the income tax. You say no. Or you go on the Washington legislator website, which is leg.wa.gov. Leg, short for legislature, but spelled as in the thing you have attached to your body. Leg.wa.gov, and you register con against the millionaire tax. You register con against it because we don't want it. So the initiative killer, according to the Center Square about this one, sponsored by Senator Javier Valdez, cleared out of the Senate State Government Tribal Affairs and Election Committee last month, but on Tuesday, Senate Minority Leader John Braun said the bill was not expected to advance ahead of Tuesday's cutoff for bills. By 5 p.m. on February 17th, all non-budget related bills need to have passed out of their chamber of origin. House bills must be passed by the House. Senate bills must pass by the Senate to remain alive for the session. Bills that fail to pass by this date are generally considered dead. Senate Bill 5973 would have required a minimum of 1,000 signatures to be submitted to the Secretary of State from those who support the measure before the issue is given an official title and signature gathering can begin to ensure viability on the issue. Tell me about all your dumb bills you guys propose that never have a chance, that are not viable. But you just propose them because you want to make it look like you're doing something and you want to fill up the news feeds of your social media accounts. You know what I think? I think you should need 1,000 signatures before proposing a bill in the legislature. How about we try that? That's what our friend Jim Walsh tried to do. You know what? If you really want to reform the initiative process, there's one way you can do this. There's one way. Have the Supreme Court weigh on it before we go to all the trouble. That's the only thing. Because all this insanity of, well, first we got to give it into the Secretary of State, and then he's got to run it by the AG. Then the AG comes up with a title for it. Then we go collect the signatures. Then it goes to the legislature. Then it goes to the ballot. And then after that, the Washington State Supreme Court can determine whether or not it's constitutional. That's a lot of work. The only reform I would be in favor of is doing this beforehand. And I know a lot of you are screaming at me going, but Ari, then the lefties will kill it right away. I'm like, yes, they will, but then we won't have to spend all that money or all that work or all that effort just to find out they're going to kill it later. That would be the only reform I would be in favor of, nothing else. But remember, no to the income tax. Call 1-800-562-6000. That's 1-800-562-6000. Last time I checked, It had, about 30,000 people registering against it, and I think 600 registering for it. Let's remember, my friends, when this thing was over in the Senate, we got 60,000 people to say no to this thing. It was the least popular bill ever in the history of the Washington legislature. Can we hit 100,000 people saying no on it this time? Go to leg.wa.gov or call 1-800-562-6000. The Center Square reached out to Let's Go Washington, the political group behind several recent initiatives to the legislature, for comment on the news that the measure appears dead for the season, meaning the one that was going to be the initiative killer. Quote, the attempt by the legislature to kneecap the people's initiative process was both shameless and arrogant. The demise this week of the initiative killer bill is a rare win for the people of Washington state, said Let's Go Washington founder Brian Haywood. The bill would have chilled participation in our state's initiative process, with penalties making citizens and voters think twice before participating in the signature gathering process. This is a hard-earned victory protecting one of the few tools voters have left to fight against an otherwise unchecked legislature. He's right. The referendum process is a lot easier, but when you make something an emergency law, you put an emergency clause in it, it's no longer subject to referendum. The Democrats do this intentionally. You know what they've done with the income tax? They've made it an emergency, even though the thing doesn't go into effect till 2029. That's an abuse. They say we needed to close our budget gap. I don't think anybody's buying that anymore when the thing goes into effect in 2029, nor is it an emergency either. Well, I guess in COVID years, if we're going off of how Jay Inslee does these things, then yeah, might be an emergency that lasts 2 years, the last 3 years. Yeah, let's do that. So yeah, remember, 1-800-562-6000, say no to the income tax. Say no. Meanwhile, this story just came out from the Daily Wire, and it's interesting because I was working on this story as well from a different angle. I'm fascinated that they got these documents. The state of Washington gave millions of taxpayer dollars to a controversial gender-affirming surgeon who performs surgeries on prison inmates. Stiller Aesthetics, a cosmetic surgery practice led by Dr. Jeff Stiller, has received more than $4.3 million from Washington State Healthcare Authority since July 2019. Dr. Stiller offers an array of transgender surgical procedures, including facial feminization. What does that mean? Facial feminization, non-binary double mastectomy, and bottom surgery, according to their website. Bottom surgery is a euphemism for what they do downstairs. We're gonna just, I'm not gonna get into it. They list exactly what it is and describe it. It's graphic. Dr. Stiller has performed over 1,000 of these procedures, averaging 5 a week, and is extremely sought after for male to female bottom surgery. While Spending Database does not provide specifics for what each payment to Dr. Stiller was for, public records reviewed by the Daily Wire show Stiller's clientele included inmates from the Washington Department of Corrections whose policies support inmates pursuing tax-funded sex rejection surgeries. While many sex rejection interventions are provided to inmates by in-house clinicians, those deemed eligible for sex change surgery can apply for temporary coverage through Washington State's Medicaid program, Apple Health, which provides coverage for transgender surgeries. President Donald Trump banned the use of federal funds to pay for any medical procedure, treatment, or drug for the purpose of conforming an inmate's appearance to that of the opposite sex in a January 2025 executive order. In February, though, of that year, Washington State led a federal multi-state lawsuit against the Trump administration and obtained a preliminary injunction against the order that allowed inmates at federal facilities to continue receiving sex rejection surgeries. In fact, I think we had Jamie Peterson on in January of last year. Maybe it was December of last year, right around the time this was happening. And he said, yeah, they were forging ahead with this. In 2017, Dr. Stiller gained national attention after being given permission to perform these surgeries at a small-town hospital in Idaho, despite strong objections from the community. So where do you go when you want to make trouble and you can't make it in Idaho? Let's go to Washington State. The Washington Post profiled him as a compassionate surgeon caught in the crosshairs of so-called transphobia in a November 2017 article in which he refers to performing these surgeries on gender-confused patients as the right thing to do. Yes, cutting off healthy parts of anatomy, definitely the right thing to do. However, after experiencing backlash and multiple controversies in Idaho related to gender medicine, Dr. Stiller started a new practice 6 years ago, where it was much safer to take care of patients. Oh, you mean they're not going to prosecute you for your butchery? But controversy has continued to follow Dr. Stiller, who was arrested for drunk driving in 2021, has faced multiple medical malpractice lawsuits over the past 5 years, according to the December 2025 report by Investigate West. Wait a minute. More lawsuits? By the way, we have discussed before that the lawsuits are what's going to end all this. We see dozens of children's hospitals across the U.S. now saying they're not doing this stuff anymore after one lawsuit. How many is it going to take here in Washington? One former staff member alleged Dr. Stiller's drinking habits impaired his ability to perform surgery and resulted in at least one botched surgery. Dr. Stiller did not respond to the Daily Wire's request for comment on the allegations. Court records showed Dr. Stiller was performing surgeries for the prison system. He was one of two surgeons the Washington Department of Corrections was ordered to contact to avoid additional unnecessary delay within 30 days of a legal settlement with a male inmate who sued when he was denied access to sex rejection surgery while incarcerated. Wow, this is a lot of fun here. Within 30 days of receipt of the evaluator's report, the Department of Corrections will contact Dr. Jeffrey Stiller at Powell House Surgeons, Pullman, Washington, and Dr. Daniel Doogie at the Oregon Health and Science University, Portland, Oregon, to determine which surgeon has the earliest availability for gender-affirming surgery. Yeah, because we don't want you to be delayed with your gender-affirming surgery. Records show Stiller Aesthetics was a facility contact on an internal prison list of gender medicine providers and a post-operative transgender surgery instructions. Yeah, you know what, for him, hey, let's get money from the state. We'll do it to all these prisoners. This will be good to go. The Daily Wire asked him about the extent of his work with the Washington Department of Corrections, how many incarcerated patients he performs transgender surgery on every year, but he did not respond to the requests. It's crazy, the stuff that was going on. One inmate struggled with self-image and physical complications after undergoing a non-binary mastectomy. Quote, I saw today their percent ongoing, you know what, I'm not describing this. I'm not reading this for you. It's so graphic. But basically, they were even botching these things for the felons. So aside from the fact that we're spending tax dollars on it, they're messing them up too. This is just awful. This is butchery that's going on here. It's crazy. We're looking out for the felons now. We look out for the trans felons that they're getting these botched surgeries from this drunken doctor. Also, we don't want our taxpayer money being spent on this in any way, shape, or form. It's beyond crazy. Yes, this is why they need the income tax. So they continue paying Dr. Stiller for trans surgeries for inmates, felons in our Department of Corrections. That's what they want your money for. We don't have a revenue problem here in Washington. We have a spending problem here in Washington. Other problems we have in Washington is the University of Washington has been declared a hostile campus, not by the Jews, but by a group linked to terrorists. We'll tell you what's going on when we come back. You're listening to the Ari Hoffman Show on Talk Radio 570 KVI. I have not been the biggest fan of the University of Washington. I didn't grow up here. I didn't go there. My experience with the University of Washington has been censorship, allowing a Hamas encampment, and all the other insanity that's been going on at that place. But apparently, the Council on American Islamic Relations, otherwise known as CAIR, doesn't like UW either. And when I saw this story, I was cracking up because UW literally caved to all the demands of this terrorist-affiliated group, and they still rated them a hostile campus. So the Council on American Islamic Relations 2025 Hostile Campus Ratings Report claims to measure whether Muslim students are safe and treated fairly on American campuses. Instead, what it actually does is demonize universities for condemning anti-Semitism and addressing violent protests on campus. So they're mad that the encampments get shut down. They're mad when the university says, stop picking on the Jewish kids. The University of Washington, which allowed a violent Gaza encampment to take over the Quad 2 years ago, caved to radical organizers' demands and took almost no consequential action against Antifa and pro-Hamas activists that caused over $1 million in damage, was rated a hostile campus for condemning the vandalism and having the culprits arrested. Now, what's funny about this report came out after they basically let these guys go with a slap on the wrist and didn't do any charges to them whatsoever, but still a hostile campus. How dare you? How dare you get mad at these students that caused over $1 million to a brand new engineering building? How dare you? How dare you condemn the vandalism? How dare you have them arrested? Rather than treat that destruction as criminal vandalism, CAIR's framework treats the university's response as a civil rights liability. I wish I was making this up. By the way, somehow I'm on CAIR's email list, so I get an email about this report, and I'm like, oh, what's a hostile campus? University of Washington? Are you kidding me? For you guys? What are you talking about? CAIR's grading formula starts every school at 100 points. Points are then deducted across 4 equal categories: institutional policies, student experience and campus climate, civil rights and legal action, free speech and political expression. A score of 90% or above earns unhostile. Scores between 70 and 89% are labeled under watch. Wow, I'd be screwed with my grades in high school and college. If 70 to 89, I'm under watch. Anything 69% or below is deemed a hostile campus. No 65 is passing with a gentleman's D-. None of that. UW ultimately received a score of 40%. 40%. One of the most pro-Hamas friendly campuses in the U.S. was rated a hostile campus for the people who are the pro-Hamasniks. After the engineering building occupation, UW officials publicly condemned the destruction, triggered a 5-point deduction for triggering the $1 million, for calling out the $1 million in damage. And when they defended calling law enforcement, they lost more points. Arrests of those responsible cost them 10 points. During the engineering building occupation, police cleared the building and made the arrest. UW was also penalized for making policy changes without consulting the students who were arrested and the student groups behind it. So you've already lost 20 points. Guess what, guys? You're already under watch. You're already a problem. In the aftermath of the encampments and the building occupations, many universities updated protest rules, clarifying time and place restrictions. Guess what? That loses you points. That loses you points. Sanctions or suspensions trigger another 10-point deduction since UW pursued disciplinary measures against students involved in the occupation and vandalism. The score was lowered even further. So they didn't discipline anybody after they caused $50,000 in damage to the Husky Union building, which is their big student union. They didn't do anything for the Gaza encampment, nothing at all. Didn't do anything when they occupied the administration building. But how dare you arrest the people that caused over $1 million worth of damage and redo your policies? Not a single school in the report qualified as unhostile. Not one. The average score was below 40%. Several high-profile universities received single-digit or low double-digit scores, including many that allowed their campuses to be taken over by radicals supporting Islamic terror. CAIR has been linked to terror groups and identified by the Department of Justice, Office of the Inspector General, as an unindicted co-conspirator in the United States versus Holy Land Foundation terror financing case, the largest terror financing trial in U.S. history. As part of the Muslim Brotherhood's Palestine Committee, an entity formed to support Hamas in the U.S., maybe it's a good thing these guys don't like University of Washington. Maybe there's hope for UW yet. CAIR's National Executive Director and co-founder, Nihad Awad, said he was happy to see Palestinian terrorists breaking the siege after Hamas's October 7th massacre of Israeli civilians that left 1,200 people dead and over 250 taken hostage. Following the comments, the Biden administration removed CAIR from its White House task force on anti-Semitism. Wait. You put the terrorist-affiliated group on your anti-Semitism task force? Oh, thank God the Biden administration's gone. We go to the Warrior Injury Law studio line, take a call from David and Lacey. David, what's going on, man?
Hey, Laurie. Hey, just letting you know that I am a nurse at Multicare Tacoma General Hospital, and we got the email a couple of weeks ago that no more gender-affirming care at any Multicare institution because they're afraid of losing their funding.
Can you do me a favor, David? Can you forward that over to me? I'll block out all your information. Can you forward that to ARI@KVI.com?
I sure will.
Thank you, man. Appreciate that.
And also, I think we should inundate the NBA commissioner with emails, phone calls, with if there's a income tax.
Yeah.
To bring the Sonics back to Washington.
Well, here's the thing. You're going to laugh about this because, David, I know you listen to the show. And you know that whole mess where me, Brandy Cruz, and Jonathan Cho were denied press passes to the Washington legislature? So last night, I went on the NBA's website to find the commissioner's information so I could send him a request for comment. Apparently, you are not allowed to send a request for comment to the NBA unless you are a credentialed media for the NBA. So last night, I had to apply. For credentials to cover the NBA just so I could ask this question. However, if I do get the information, I will for sure give it to everybody so you guys can give your thoughts on what's going on with the Sonics. David, appreciate the tip. Don't forget to send me that email, ARI@KVI.com. That's ARI@KVI.com. And send any others you get that are within that orbit. I'm sure we'd love to see them. Appreciate the call. Appreciate you being part of the show. You want to be part of the show, you give us a call or a text at 206-421-5757. That's 206-421-5757. Yeah, my friends, a lot of you work for these companies. And when you get tips like this, send them on over to us. We will conceal your identity. We will hide your identity. Send it on over to us. We would love to see this kind of stuff. Lots more to discuss as the show continues. When we come back, my friends, another flex event here in Washington. Is the government or the utility company going to start turning down your thermostats again without you knowing about it? I'll tell you all about it when we come back. You're listening to the Ari Hoffman Show on Talk Radio 570 KVI. Well, my friends, our friendly neighborhood meteorologists were telling me that there was going to be snow or ice or something. My kid's school even got delayed. And then Puget Sound Energy goes sending out flex alerts saying that they're going to ask you to stop using as much electricity at night during all this. And I'm looking around this morning. Maybe there was a little flurry, but I had no problem getting in here. And I drive a Dodge Charger, which isn't exactly known for its traction. Joining me now to discuss all of this on the Warrior Injury Law studio line is our friend who's Vice President of Research over at the Washington Policy Center, the one and only Todd Myers. Thank you so much for being with us today, sir.
Yeah, always nice to chat with you.
So can you help me understand this? I think a lot of people in our audience don't get these flex alerts. There's the voluntary ones. There's the involuntary ones. Can you just, before we get too deep into this, explain the difference for the people who don't know what they signed up for?
Well, actually, I don't. I think that if you're getting a, quote, involuntary one, it means that you have signed up for it and are getting a rebate. So, for instance, I signed up for the, involuntary ones where you promise to reduce your energy use a certain number of times, and you get, and they pay you an amount. Now, even with that, if you simply say, no, I'm not going to do it, and you don't do it, or you turn your thermostat back up, they just simply say, okay, well, then you don't get the rebate. So you can actually opt out instantly. But, I think it is good whether you automate it and you sign up and you say, great, turn it down when you need it, or whether it's voluntary. I think these things are good because people are paying higher rates when the costs are higher, when the demand is high. They just don't realize it. And so giving consumers more information rather than just letting, the government and the utilities decide for you how much you're paying and things like that, I think we need to do more of that, not less.
Now, this leads into a comment you posted on X, which is funny because you were disagreeing with me, but then I actually ended up agreeing with you when I read it. Either way, it's kind of funny. So what I did was I posted one of the notices we got from one of our listeners about the Flex Alert. Now, this one is saying, please join your neighbors in reducing energy usage tomorrow, meaning today, from 6 p.m. this was for yesterday, from 6 p.m. to 10 p.m. And I wrote, how bad is our power infrastructure that Puget Sound Energy is asking people in the greater Seattle area to turn down their heat for one night of below freezing temperatures? You wrote, Ari correctly highlights that our energy generation is less reliable than it should be. However, consumers need to take more control of their energy use and should be rewarded when they conserve at times of high cost and high demand. We actually need more alerts like this. And I find myself agreeing with you. So if you are thinking of some kind of reward, what incentive structure would you suggest?
Well, the way rates are set right now is that the Utilities Commission and utilities go behind closed doors and they say, how much do you want? Here's the rates. And the Utility Commission says, okay, that's too high. And the utility says, okay, well, how about this? They say, great. And they come out and they go, okay, we've set your rates. And the public goes, well, how did you do that? And it's like, well, we set it and here's what you're going to pay now. As long as that's the case, then the costs of bad public policy are hidden because people don't see the cost. If you ask people, how much do you pay a month in your utility for electricity? A lot of people don't know, and they certainly don't know what behaviors they use and have that cause their energy rates to go up. So what I want is more opportunities for people to say, oh, okay, costs are high now, costs are low now. Oh, here's where I'm using my energy. Here's what's costing me and those sorts of things. Because then it's not just, government setting your prices and you just along for the ride. We need more people to be involved. So that's why I want more notifications like that. And ideally what I want is people to see even the prices that they're paying. I want more transparency so people can make their decisions. And if they want to use electricity, they should. When it's cold, turn on the heat. But if they can save energy, they should and save money.
You might remember this study. It was years and years and years ago, before I was even in this world. There was some study I seem to recall where conservatives were more likely to recycle because it was cheaper. Yeah. And if it's good for the environment, sure. It kind of, what you're talking about kind of reminds me of that.
Well, that was the irony is that the more concerned you were about climate change, the less likely you were to take actions in your daily lives to help the environment. And the less concerned you were about climate change, the more likely you were. And the reason is that I think, a lot of people on the left, certainly not all, but they're more likely to sort of outsource environmentalism to the government. Conservatives care about the environment, but we take the personal responsibility. And so what happens is that when you get these flex alerts, because consumers have been sort of locked out of the system for so long, you feel like it's being imposed upon you, I think, which was your reaction and the reaction I get from a lot of people, which is, hey, wait a minute, you're the ones in charge of this system. Why are you putting the burden on me now to make up for your bad decisions? And I certainly understand that. But ultimately, I think we ought to take advantage of that, sense of responsibility and opportunity to save money and get people more involved rather than outsourcing the environment to the government, who, as we know, does a horrible job of caring for the environment.
Yeah, I completely agree. And you make some absolutely great points. We're talking with Todd Myers, who's the Vice President of Research over for the Washington Policy Center. And switching gears for a minute, just because you and I are both sports fans and because you're also really good with the math where I'm not. So let's look at the impact taxes might have on sports. And I found these documents yesterday that show, hey, wait a second, the NBA is looking at that millionaire's tax. And then, of course, there's the payroll tax. And then you've got all these tech companies laying everybody off. At some point, the math isn't mathing for a sports franchise to consider coming back to Washington. And maybe another sports franchise may say, hey, I see those Bears are heading on over to Indiana. Maybe St. Louis wants a football team. What are your thoughts on all this?
Well, there's no doubt that players, free agents go to where the taxes are less. And I think a lot of people saw that. I think Sam Darnold actually ended up paying for the privilege to pay in the Super Bowl because he paid more in taxes to California than he got for the Super Bowl victory. So we know that there are players who choose where they go based on the taxes. Now, that doesn't have to be everyone, and there's a lot of other rules. So it's not 100%. But, for instance, the city of Seattle is talking about creating an income tax. And if the state does an income tax, well, having your stadium in Seattle costs a lot of money for those players. So it's not the only factor by any stretch of the imagination. But to say that it isn't a factor is just, I think silly and is contradicted by numerous players who have actually talked about their concerns. And in fact, there was recently in Massachusetts, which passed a similar income tax, what they call high earners tax. There was a hockey player who went to North Carolina and said, yeah, I'm here because the taxes when I played for Boston were too high. So this is a real thing.
Oh, it really is. And now that we pay college players, sort of, I think that's going to be a factor, too. And don't forget all the drama we just had over at the University of Washington regarding this kind of stuff. Yeah, I don't think the left has really realized what they have unleashed here. Todd Myers, just before we let you go, predictions for the Mariners this year, because I know you're a big fan.
Yeah, I think I think their team is great. I really like the new infielder they got from the St. Louis Cardinals. So I think their team is stronger. Having Josh Naylor for a whole year is going to be great. So I'm really, they're going to win the West again. They were basically one pitch away from the World Series, so I think they'll make it.
See, and people say that us political people can't do sports discussions. I think this is the most informed sports discussion you're going to hear anywhere in our area today. Todd Myers, Vice President of Research for the Washington Policy Center, thank you so much for joining us today. Really do appreciate it.
Yep, always nice to chat with you.
Always a pleasure, buddy. We got a whole lot more to discuss. A follow-up to a story from yesterday. Yesterday, we heard this report from the Daily Mail where Tucker Carlson was alleging that Israel detained him and that they were rough with him and that they were all mean to him and they did all these horrible things to him. And I said at the time, there's no way any of this is true. First of all, anybody who's been through Israeli security before knows exactly what it's like. They ask you questions about everything, including your underwear, because they take security very, very seriously. The Israeli that you usually get will usually do something like this. What's your name? Where are you from? Where were you born? What synagogue do you go to? What church do you go to? What are you doing here? Why are you here? Are these your bags? Did you pack your bags? Did you take any items for anybody? Are you bringing any gifts for anybody? Yeah, it's a little bit more involved because, they take terrorism very, very seriously. It's a little bit more involved than the TSA agent who says, pre-check, pre-check, do you have pre-check, 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 clear, pre-check, clear. Little bit more involved than that. So when everybody found out that this entire report that Tucker Carlson alleged was completely bogus, everybody made fun of him. He claimed men who identified themselves as security took our passports, hauled our executive producer into a side room, and then demanded to know what we spoke to Ambassador Huckabee about. He described the experience as bizarre, adding that his team was now out of the country. Well, what's funny is everybody weighed in on this. Huckabee posted on X saying everyone who comes in and out of Israel has passports checked and routinely asked security questions. Huckabee also shared a statement attributed to the Israel Airports Authority denying that Tucker Carlson's entourage was denied, delayed, or interrogated in any way, shape, or form. According to the IAA statement, Carlson and his party were politely asked a few routine questions consistent with procedures applied to all travelers. The conversation took place in a separate room inside the VIP lounge, slowly to protect their privacy and avoid conducting security questioning in public. Now, in addition to this, Israel has released video of it. In this security lounge off the VIP lounge, Tucker Carlson is hugging the security guard, taking pictures with the security guard. Oh, he was detained. Oh, it's so awful. I reached out to the U.S. Embassy. I want to know exactly what happened. And they got me a statement. They said that Carlson's claims of being denied entry into Israel were not accurate. The spokesperson said the embassy's only involvement was coordinating the landing of Carlson's private plane as part of facilitating a seamless visit. The spokesperson added that Carlson chose to remain only a few hours, then depart, receiving the same positive treatment of any visitor to Israel. The interview took place at the VIP airport lounge. The same passport control questions that countless visitors to Israel, including Ambassador Huckabee and other diplomats, receive as part of normal entrance and exit. When I saw this video, when I saw the pictures, I said, I've never seen that part of Ben Gurion Airport before. Where is that? It's where the private planes land, because you still have to go through security. Just because you come in a private plane doesn't mean you ain't getting security because they're worried about what you're bringing into the country. But Tucker Carlson is on video hugging these guys, taking pictures with these guys. Oh, such a rough landing. Did you not like the hors d'oeuvres they had in the VIP lounge? Did you not like the drinks? Tucker, normally when people go to Israel, they go see the sites. It doesn't have to be the Jewish sites. Go see the Christian sites. You talk all the time about how Christian you are. Why didn't you go see the sites? You claim that Israel's doing all these awful things? Go take the tour from the Palestinian Authority if you want. No. He landed on a private plane, saw the VIP lounge, did an ambassador interview with Huckabee, and then was out of there. That was it. But he wanted a few clicks. So I figured, let's demonize Israel in the process. Let's just do a few clicks. Former Israeli Prime Minister Naftali Bennett blasted Carlson on X, calling him a chicken. Well, I can't say the rest of that on air, accusing him of staging the visit for optics and fabricating the airport incident. Bennett said Carlson didn't even step foot in the country, then made up a story that he's supposedly being harassed by our security before returning to his private jet and departing. What a rough life. David Friedman, former U.S. ambassador to Israel during President Donald Trump's first term, wrote that Carlson's decision to remain at the airport was obviously intentional and a missed opportunity, given what he said were invitations to visit sites around the country. Since leaving Fox News in 2023, Carlson has launched an independent program, The Tucker Carlson Show, where he has amplified guests who have made anti-Semitic claims, ranging from Daryl Cooper to Nick Fuentes, who has called himself an admirer of Adolf Hitler. While talking to Fuentes, Carlson said Huckabee was seized by a brain virus of supporting Israel, adding, "I dislike Christian Zionists more than anybody, he said. At Turning Point USA, founder Charlie Kirk's memorial service, Carlson suggested that Israel was behind the conservative commentator's assassination. Advocacy group Stop Anti-Semitism named Carlson its Anti-Semite of the Year in December of 2025. Talk about a brain virus, by the way. That seems to be what Carlson has. You know the craziest thing Tucker Carlson said? Was that he was attacked by demons in his sleep. Demons in his sleep. Now, I'm a religious fellow, but I don't believe demons are attacking anybody in their sleep. And then my favorite part was as he was telling the story, he was saying that the demons left scratch marks on him. Then he mentioned that he sleeps with his dogs in the bed. And of course, anybody who has half a brain goes, you were attacked by demons, or maybe your dog scratched you up in bed? Just a thought. Just a thought. Just a hunch. I think that may be more likely than the demons. Just a thought there. By the way, true horseshoe theory in effect. Gavin Newsom went to that security conference in Munich and had a bit of a gaffe while he was there. This is what Gavin Newsom said while he was there.
But I want to remember all those images of masked men, the secret police, something familiar in Germany. Those first images came out of my state, the second largest city in the United States of America. We saw 4,000 National Guard federalized. First time, we'd never seen anything like this. And 700 active duty Marines sent not overseas, but to the second largest city in the United States of America, militarizing the streets of my city. Masked men showing up, unaccountable, no IDs.
Is he comparing ICE to Nazis while sitting in Munich, Germany? That's an interesting move right there. That's an interesting move. I have a question for all of you. Has the shine worn off of Tucker Carlson for you, or do you still like his content? Give us a call or a text at 206-421-5757. That's 206-421-5757. I like that I never really liked Tucker Carlson's content. I thought he was going to be a huge deal on social media, which he was, but I never liked his content. I always thought he stared kind of weirdly at the camera, and I don't like bow ties. They creep me out. People who wear bow ties, I have questions about people who wear bow ties. That's my own personal thing. I know some people like doing it. It's a peeve of mine. Whatever. Anywho, lots more to discuss as the show continues, my friends. When we come back, the Board of Peace has its first meeting. So what exactly are they discussing? And are we going to bomb Iran? We'll give you all details when we come back. You're listening to the Ari Hoffman Show on Talk Radio 570 KVI. Welcome to the Ari Hoffman Show's final hour free for all. Your calls, your texts, your thoughts, your stories, streaming live at KVI.com and the KVI app. If you want to be part of the most dangerous show on the airwaves, call or text the Warrior Injury Law Studio line at 206-421-5757. That's 206-421-5757. Coming up this hour, are we going to war with Iran? Are we getting ready to bomb Iran? Somebody from the State Department is going to be joining us with some insight. But before we get to any of that, we go to the Warrior Injury Law Studio line, take a call from Kelly in Snohomish. Kelly, what's going on?
How are you, Ari?
Good. What's up, man?
Thanks for taking my call. I'm just glad to hear somebody with some common sense telling it like it is. I used to really like Tucker Carlson when he was on Fox News and they had a script, and it just seems like he's just kind of gone off into the deep end with everything. And I agree with you. As a Christian, I don't think he's a Christian. I really don't. And it just seems like he lacks discernment and certainly credibility when it comes to, the truths of the Bible. And I don't think this Bible.
Well, I'll tell you this, is that for a guy who claims he's a Christian, every Christian I know can quote the Bible pretty well. He gets it wrong all the time, and there's nothing wrong with looking it up and looking at it out of the book. I have to do that all the time, and I read the good book fairly regularly in Hebrew. And my favorite is when people come up to me and they actually quote it to me in English, and I have to take a minute and translate into Hebrew so I know what they're talking about. But, yeah, he gets it wrong all the time. He has on these lunatics all the time, and we're at a place in our history where relations between Christians and Jews has never been better, and he's trying to undermine that? What's that all about?
Yeah, and we just need to be careful and remember that the Jews are God's chosen people, and throughout history, there's always been just a small remnant that are actually Christians, and a large part of Israel is secular. But I'll tell you what, Tucker Carlson, I quit listening and watching him. He doesn't know what he's talking about, and he sensationalizes everything.
Yeah, here's something else, too. You remember when Fox got rid of him? And a lot of people said, is this because of Dominion? Is this because of something else? I wonder if it was because they saw he was going off the deep end and said, we don't want to be on the hook when this guy detonates. I wonder what guests he was asking them to book on the show, given the fact that he has Hitler sympathizers, Nazi apologists on his show. I mean, I wonder if Fox News was the thing keeping the guardrails on this guy.
And going back to Israel, what do people expect from a country who had to deal with missiles being lobbed into their country every month? And I think we forget how bad that was. And they finally had to take care of the problem. And as hard as it is to watch the destruction of Gaza and everything, it had to happen. They gave them chance after chance after chance. They gave them land, and what else are they going to do? They have to defend themselves, and this is what it looks like.
As I say all the time, if one missile came from Mexico into Texas, how quickly, until the Texas National Guard would mobilize themselves to go to war with Mexico, or how soon? Would it be a matter of minutes or hours until we would invade Mexico?
Think about if it happened every week, every month, and that went on for years. It's always happened with Israel.
Exactly.
And so how else are they supposed to act? I support Israel. I don't do it foolishly. I realize that I realize it for what it is, but just in concluding this conversation, Tucker Carlson does not speak for me as a Christian. I feel the same way you do.
That's very kind of you to say, Kelly. Great conversation. Appreciate you listening to the show. Appreciate the support. Appreciate you being part of the show. You want to be part of the show, give us a call or text at 206-421-5757. That's 206-421-5757. In fact, as I'm looking at the text line, from the 360, Tucker is a phony American. He's a lot like Gavin. Yeah, I mean, Tucker Carlson, I mean, he's always in Qatar. Didn't Qatar buy him a house recently? Another one from the different 360. Ari, I completely agree with you on the bow tie stuff. Think Pee Wee Herman. That's very good. Yeah, but then again, you look at the suit Pee Wee Herman's wearing, and that's what the dude's wearing to pick up your daughter for his prom date these days. Yeah, it's a little scary how close we've come to that style of fashion nowadays, right? This one from another 360. A lot of our listeners down there today. I used to like Tucker Carlson. Now I think he is a complete nutball. Yep. Okay. Guys, if you write things with the F-bomb in them, I cannot read them on air. You're not going to trip me up. Hoffman does not just read what's on the teleprompter. I do like that. Switching gears entirely, there's a real question if we are actually going to go out there and...
Bomb, 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 Iran. Bomb, 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 Iran. Bomb, 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 Iran. Bomb, 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 Iran. What country's got a feeling really hit the ceiling? Bomb, Iran. Bomb, 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 Iran.
So, do you think we're actually going to do it? We've been talking about it for a while. The Trump administration says there's movement and that we may not actually need a war, that they might make a deal. But how many times in our history of dealing with this terrorist regime have they said, oh, we're going to make a deal, we're going to make a deal, and then there's no deal? President Trump today, while meeting with the Board of Peace all together for the first time in Washington, D.C., said this, and people aren't really sure what to make of it.
We have a first year like probably no other ever in our country because we settled 8 wars, and I think a 9th to come. It's turned out to be a tougher one. I thought that was going to be the easiest one. But with war, you never know what's easy and what's not so easy. But we've had a great relationship.
So we're going to settle another one. What's the other one we're going to settle? Does that mean Iran? Does that mean something else is going on? Now, a lot of people don't understand the Board of Peace. And let me explain exactly what it is. The question is, what do you do with Gaza? What do you do with Gaza after everything happened? Tried giving the Palestinians their own country. That didn't work. What do you do with Gaza? So here's the peace plan so everybody understands it. If you want to be on the Board of Peace, you have to buy a piece of the action. You have to agree you're going to invest, and then you get a piece of Gaza to invest in. So all the countries that are on the Board of Peace are working on developing, rebuilding parts of Gaza, their own specific part of Gaza. I wonder if this thing is going to be a group effort or if down the road it's going to look like Epcot Center. And you just go, okay, well, I'm in the Qatar section here, and I'm in the British section here, and I'm in the American section here, and I'm just going through it. But this is financial incentives. Say, here's your little piece of it. You guys develop it. You want to build hotels, you want to build casinos, whatever. But Israel's in charge of the infrastructure, and Israel is in charge of the security. This is something I think actually has a chance to go forward. I think this is something where we are going to see great results from this, hopefully, because it's about, look, you want economic prosperity or not. This is also how you bring in international partners. This is also how the U.S. isn't responsible for the entire thing by themselves. This is the way to go. Do you think this has a chance or not? Give us a call or a text at 206-421-5757. That's 206-421-5757, because in my opinion, the Palestinians can look at this and say, I want to be prosperous or I want to continue being terrorists. Now, some of them are still terrorists. When I was in Israel in December, and don't forget the ceasefire was in effect by then, and all the hostages were returned by then, I still heard artillery in the distance. Every day, you still find out there are still Hamas fighters who are coming out of the ground and ambushing Israeli soldiers. This is something we hear about all the time. So Hamas is going to be Hamas. Nothing's going to change there. But can you develop Gaza so the rest of the Palestinians have jobs? The rest of the Palestinians have places to go? I hope so. Nobody wants the war to continue. Everybody wants the war to be over. In fact, it seems like the only people who are mad about this plan are the Democrats and Hamas. But I repeat myself. It seems like the only people mad about it is Hamas, which is the Democrats, which is beyond crazy to me. They can't even give Trump a little bit. That's full Trump derangement syndrome. Look, I got plenty of friends on the left. And when we sit down and we discuss the stuff, they go, I didn't entirely hate this thing that President Trump did. I kind of like that. That's how you know a person doesn't have full-on Trump derangement syndrome. It's the ones who are foaming at the mouth. Them. Those ones where you even mention his name and they turn into a gremlin in front of you. That's full-on Trump derangement syndrome. Now, some of these Democrats, I'm not sure if they're doing it just because they think it gets them votes, but every time they go full TDS, they always get called out for it. So here's a fun one for you. Chuck Schumer. Chuck Schumer, who's been in the Senate since before I was born, I think, at this point. Chuck Schumer, You know, he's been talking about how much he hates the ID, the SAVE Act, and how it's going to deny people the vote and how he doesn't like voter ID. Yeah, here's Chuck Schumer in 1996 talking about how much he loved voter ID.
Let's admit the truth. Everywhere people go, they're asked for a Social Security card. In fact, one way to prove you're a bona fide person who can have a job is to ask for a driver's license and a Social Security card. This is an anti-fraud amendment. Over where we go, people say, well, why can't you stop illegal immigrants or others from coming here? And the number one answer we give our constituents is when they come here, they can get jobs, get benefits against the law because of fraud.
Whoa, Chucky, you sound like one of us, man. What changed? You sound like a Republican with that one. I love the new excuses they're coming up with. This is the new excuses because so many have been debunked. So what was the first one? Black people don't know how to get IDs. People of color don't know how to get IDs. And that's just plain racist. Okay, so the soft bigotry of low expectations. What's their new one? Well, most people don't have passports, so how are they going to get registered to vote? Most people don't have a birth certificate. How are they going to register to vote? Okay, number one, let's put this out here. How'd they get their driver's licenses? I know that when my daughter just had to get her driver's license, how'd we go get her driver's license? Well, we're responsible people. We took her birth certificate. We took her social security number. We took all the information she needed, included the little certificate she gets from the driver's ed school to get her permit before she even takes driver's ed. You got to register to enroll the classes. Okay, you know what? That's a form of ID. We shouldn't do driver's ed anymore. Let's get rid of driver's ed. Have a whole bunch of maniac teenagers. Just hand them the keys. Go ahead. Here you go. Just go ahead. That's fine. Let's do that. Okay? Yeah, we all know this is insane. In fact, it's so insane, the stuff that Chuck Schumer is saying, is that even CNN is calling him out for it. Even CNN. Because him saying now, after years of saying he wanted voter ID, now saying he doesn't want it, we all know he's full of it.
About 83% of the American people, including majority Democrats, support voter ID laws.
Well, yeah, the voter ID laws that, first, each state can have its own voter ID laws, and some do and some don't. But secondly, what they are proposing in this so-called SAVE Act is like Jim Crow 2.0. They make it so hard to get any kind of voter ID that more than 20 million legitimate people, mainly poorer people and people of color, will not be able to vote under this law. We will not let it pass in the Senate. We are fighting it tooth and nail. It's an outrageous proposal that is, that shows the sort of political bias of the MAGA right. They don't want poor people to vote. They don't want people of color to vote because they often don't vote for them.
Okay, crazy man. This is not Jim Crow. They're saying we need you to have an ID to vote. You're saying you don't want them to have one. Most people I know their social security number. Most people I know where their birth certificate is. Most people I know have a passport. Everybody I know, unless they're underage, has a driver's license. You need these documents to get a driver's license. Here's a better one for you, right? How many of these people have TSA pre-check? TSA pre-check. I know a lot of people have TSA pre-check. Mr. KVI has TSA pre-check right there. Do you remember the documentation you had to provide for TSA pre-check? I went to that place next to the Costco on 4th Avenue.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, you went to the same place.
Yeah.
Yeah, just go on in there. What I give them? Was it a passport? Was it a birth certificate? I don't remember what I did, but that's how I got my TSA pre-check. Yeah.
Either that or both or all. Whatever.
Yeah, something like that. Whatever it was, sure, head on down there and do it. What about, do you have Clear?
I don't have Clear.
Okay, we have the Clear because we go international from time to time. And Clear, by the way, not worth it. It's only worth it when it's open, which is never. Clear. Really? Yeah, don't get me started on Clear. When do I normally fly? I usually finish the show, then I go to the airport, and I go do Clear, right? The problem is that the Clear place isn't open past like 8 o'clock at night. And I'm like, are you kidding me? If the airport's open, Clear should be open.
Because I always have a problem when I'm like in the TSA line, and then they're like, "What? Hold up!" and they're letting the clear people through.
There's that one too. Then
Come
there's
on.
TSA Clear, regular TSA, regular Clear, general for all you unwashed miscreants that don't have ID except you need it to fly. Yeah. Hey, Chucky Schumer, can you explain that one to me? Because I don't really understand. I don't really get it. All these people have ID to fly. They all have ID to get driver's licenses. They all have it for that, right? Hey, do you think maybe the Democrats have gone a little too far on this whole voter ID thing? Wonder what Hillary Clinton has to say. Wait. Before we play Hillary Clinton, I need to read the disclaimer. Hang on. This is mandated. The Clinton disclaimer. Let me make sure I got this here. I have no dirt that may lead to the conviction of Hillary or Bill Clinton. I have no information on the Clintons whatsoever. I am not suicidal, and I love my life. Okay, now we can play the clip from Hillary Clinton.
I think we need to call it for what it is.
Secretary
There is a
Clinton.
legitimate reason to have a debate about things like migration. It went too far. It's been disruptive and destabilizing, and it needs to be fixed in a humane way with secure borders that don't torture and kill people.
Whoa. Hang on. There's so much to unpack there for a second. Number one, she just said she wants secure borders. Number two, who's getting tortured at the border? Last time I checked, that was you guys. That was your MO, where you had all these cartels doing these awful things at the border, like throwing little kids into the Rio Grande to distract the border agents so they could smuggle things across the border. What are you even talking about, you crazy lunatic? But I'll take what I can get out of that statement, which is Hillary Clinton wants closed borders. That's what she said, right? Hang on, reading this one more time. I have no information that may lead to the conviction of Hillary Clinton. I have no information that may lead to the arrest of Hillary Clinton. Bill Clinton was most definitely not on Epstein's island. I am very happy with my life, and I am not suicidal. Okay, I did my disclaimer for the day. You all heard it, right? Okay. Yeah, this border dispute, this ID dispute is stupid. Basically, what's happening here is the Democrats know the only people who aren't going to be able to vote are going to be the illegal aliens. And they know that without them, they don't win elections anymore. That is what is going on here. That's why they're fighting it so hard. But I have a question for all of you. Right now, the Republicans have enough votes to pass the SAVE Act into law in the Senate with 51 votes. Should they destroy the filibuster? Do you think they should get rid of the filibuster, which we've had for a very, very long time, which means you need 60 to get anything through the Senate? Do you think they should do that in order to get the SAVE Act into law? What do you think? Give us a call or a text at 206-421-5757. That's 206-421-5757. Lots more to discuss as the show continues, my friends. When we come back, did Bob Ferguson completely ruin any chance Seattle has of getting the Sonics back? More of the paperwork we dug up in my exclusive reporting. You're listening to the Ari Hoffman Show on Talk Radio 570 KVI. Welcome back to the Ari Hoffman Show. Just a reminder, if you got sold out of Stake of the Union, head on over to KVI.com right now. Register to become a KVI insider. So that way you don't miss out on the next event, and we have your information in our system. We don't spam you. We don't sell your data. Don't worry about that, my friends. Make sure you sign up to become a KVI insider. You'll find out about more upcoming events because this one sold out very, very quickly. I asked you guys what you thought about getting rid of the filibuster, and the majority of you actually want to keep it. In terms of getting rid of it, James in Covington said, no, don't get rid of it with 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 7 O's for no. This one here, he also adds, if we get rid of it, it will turn to chaos. Exactly right. 661, keep the filibuster necessary for the balance of power. John in Lakewood disagrees. He thinks the SAVE Act is too important. Get rid of the filibuster rule. So here's my thing, is that you don't want to be the ones who opened up that problem, is my opinion, because the Democrats will use it against us forever. And if we lose the Senate and the House, they'll just undo the SAVE Act as soon as they get into power. That's what I'm kind of concerned about. I know everybody says, well, Ari, we won't have any elections problem after that. You know the Democrats can undo anything the Republicans do. Yeah, you'll still have Trump as a backstop. But what if they get a super majority where all of a sudden the president, they can override his veto? What about that? You have to think about these things, guys. Me, I'm not in favor of getting rid of the filibuster, even though I really, really, really support the SAVE Act. We go to the Warrior Injury Law studio line, take a call from Steve in Bremerton. Steve, what's going on?
Hi, Ari. I'm pretty sure about this, but I'd like you to confirm it because you're up on this stuff. And if it's true, the drum needs to be beat about this. I think there was already a vote taken by the Democrats, and if it wasn't for Joe Manchin and Christian Sinema, wouldn't the filibuster have already been defeated?
I believe so. I have to go back and double check.
Now, if that's the case and we're that close to it happening, my concern is they're going to do it. Every level-headed person wants to keep it intact, but if they're going to wipe it out anyway, if they get the chance, I don't know. What's your point?
So my thing is, I think that if they don't have a supermajority where they can override a veto with a 2/3 majority, then I don't think they do it. I really don't, because then it's just virtue signaling. It's not worth hanging over them for the rest of time that they did it, because then the Republicans will swoop in and use it for everything, right? So I think is that it's not going anywhere. If they get a veto-proof majority, I think the filibuster is the first thing to go, and they won't need it anyway, because then they'll have a 2/3 majority.
Gotcha. Thank you for commenting on it. I think this is an important topic. I listen to you every day. Thanks.
I appreciate that. Thank you, Steve. Appreciate the call. Appreciate you being part of the show. You want to be part of the show, you give us a call or a text at 206-421-5757. That's 206-421-5757. This one here from Marino. Hi, Ari. Getting rid of the filibuster is a double-edged sword. The one hand, if the Democrats get back into power, could be awful. However, if Americans have to show ID to vote, that means illegal aliens and illegal aliens, and people who are not supposed to vote won't vote unless you live in Washington, Oregon, or California. He says, do you think John Fetterman? I think John Fetterman would vote for the SAVE Act. In fact, I think he's already said he would. Are there any moderate Democrats that might join, or you just don't have to destroy it? Just makes so much sense, but I've yet to hear anyone with a rational argument not to vote for it. I hate it when they say old people can't get an ID. That is so insulting. I go on an international trip every year for years, so spare me. Exactly right. Marino's completely got it right. Because it really is insulting when you say things like that. I wonder how all the women feel. All these women who change their names, they're not going to be able to get ID. What kind of nonsense is that? First of all, you're going to laugh about this. My wife is hyphenated. Do you know why my wife is hyphenated? Because it was easier than filling out the paperwork to change her name. My wife will still be able to vote. You know what's funny, though? Over at the voting people, they spelled her name wrong. She has sent multiple corrections to spell her name correctly. The voting people here in Washington can't get it right. Yeah, her name is wrong on every single ballot that comes to our house. She signs it, she sends it back, and it's counted. Really unbelievable. Yeah, but we have the most secure voting system ever here in Washington, right? Don't we? James in Covington, he's worried about the chaos that's going to happen here. Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. Getting back to our top story of the day, which is this craziness that I got a hold of the documents which Bob Ferguson's team was using to prep him for his conversation with NBA Commissioner Adam Silver about keeping the Sonics here, I think more now than ever, was that Bob Ferguson and his team got wind that the Sonics were a done deal. They were a lock. Kevin, you know people who have this happen too. I've had this discussion also. People keep saying, oh yeah, they're going to be back this summer. I know, I got the inside track. And that was last summer, wasn't it? We've heard this from multiple
I've
people.
heard it multiple summers. But yeah, I had 2 confirmations that last summer it was going to be announced. And I know someone who's an attorney working with, and it is a done deal. It's going to be announced in June.
Right.
That's what I was told.
And that was last June, though. That's not this June, right?
No.
I heard from a few other people, yeah, it's going to be this summer. You're going to find out they're coming back. And I wonder if that was actually true. And then they saw the taxes. Because you know what came out in April? In April, that letter came out from all these corporations saying, don't pass these taxes. And it made national news. You think the NBA isn't checking this stuff out? So what did we find out? That NBA Commissioner Adam Silver is concerned that the millionaire's tax could hurt efforts to recruit players. He's worried about investments moving from Washington to Florida. He's worried about not being enough customers here for tickets, for merchandise, for anything else because so many people are leaving Washington. We're losing what, 40 taxpayers a day? I feel bad. Somebody's getting fired over the fact that I got these documents. They didn't mean to give me these documents. I know Bob Ferguson's office. This thing was 500 some odd pages, this public disclosure request I filed, 500 some odd pages of Zoom meetings, not the meetings themselves, just the invitations for the Zoom meetings. I don't think they meant for this thing to be in there. I think this was attached to one of the Zoom meetings, and they're like, oh, crud, this got in there. I'm also kind of wondering why, aside from our friends over at the Center Square, the mainstream media hasn't picked this up. Likely because they're worried about losing access. Hey, where's Click Daniels? This is a Sonic story. Where's he at? I've never known him to pass up a Sonic. Oh, wait. To be perfectly fair, this is one saying they may not be coming back. His stories are always, oh, the Seahawks won the Super Bowl. What does this mean for the Sonics coming? Maybe that's what it is. It's a negative story, not a positive story. I have never known Chris Daniels to pass up a Sonic story, and I know Chris Daniels follows my social media. In fact, I'll say this also. I sent this to some of my sports friends in the area. I sent it around to a few people. No stories yet. Why do you think that is? Oh, we have to verify it. Guys, here's the documents from the governor's own public disclosure. We have to verify it. It came from Ari Hoffman, that rabble rouser. We can't trust him. Guys, the documents came from the governor's office. It's real easy to see that. They're not covering it because they're worried about losing access. Also, don't forget, our friends in the media right now are advocating for a tax on big tech to fund the media. The craziest one was the owners of KHQ. That's the NBC affiliate out in the Tri-Cities, out in the Spokane area. They've got a whole bunch of those NBC affiliates. A $500 million company is begging for your taxpayer money to fund their NBC affiliate stations. Yeah, I kid you not. This is really crazy. That's why you can't trust the media. Because they're begging for money and they're not going to cover a story like this because it makes the Washington legislature look bad. It makes Bob Ferguson look bad. It makes the Democrats look bad, which is why they'll never cover the story. Lots more to discuss as the show continues, my friends. When we come back, Board of Peace met for the first time today, and we got a representative from the State Department dropping by to talk about it. Also, Marco Rubio's speech in Munich, which was well received. We'll give you all details when we come back. You're listening to the Ari Hoffman Show on Talk Radio 570 KVI. Well, my friend, the U.S. has had an amazing week on the international stage, at least if you're a Republican. We saw that AOC bombed in Munich, and Gavin Newsom was, well, that was a whole nother thing. But the good news is that Marco Rubio truly shined with a speech that we played for you here on the show that was really reminiscent of some of the best stuff we've heard from Ronald Reagan. But the best part about it was talking about American exceptionalism and how we need a strong Europe. And that way we can have a strong U.S., and a strong U.S. equals a strong Europe. It was really just an amazing, amazing speech. Joining us now to discuss, Principal Deputy Spokesperson for the U.S. State Department, Tommy Pidgeot. Welcome back to the show, my friend.
Thanks for having me on. Appreciate it.
Such a pleasure. Now, that speech was incredible, and I'm not going to ask you who wrote it. I'm not going to ask if the Secretary wrote it himself, but do you think he had a certain goal in mind, and what was he trying to achieve by giving the speech?
Well, I think the goal was to clearly articulate the vision that President Trump has to make sure that this next century, the century we're in, is a Western century. So I think that was clearly this goal here. It was a frank conversation in many ways about the mistakes that have been made in the past, including policies that encouraged mass migration, climate alarmism, but also was an optimistic speech. It was a speech that clearly outlined that decline is a choice. It's a choice that we've rejected as a nation before. It's a choice that we can reject again and are rejecting again under President Trump. Instead of decline, we're going to see revitalization. We're going to see revitalization of our alliances. We're going to see revitalization of our civilization. We're going to make sure we're best positioned not only to meet the challenges of this century, but to take advantage of the opportunities of this century, making sure we have secure supply chains, making sure we're addressing AI, making sure we're working with our partners. It really was that optimistic speech that contextualized where we are and where President Trump wants to go, and it was an invitation to Europe to, for them to go with us on this. And that, as Secretary Rubio said, it's the clear preference to work with our allies and partners in order to meet this century together and overcome these shared challenges that we face.
There was something else that I really enjoyed about it. There's a lot of people who say America first is America only, who don't understand that when you put America first and America's leading on the international stage, then everybody else helps with the burden sharing. So, for example, we shouldn't necessarily be the ones dealing with what's happening with Ukraine and Russia, but if Europe stepped up, that means we don't have to. That's America leading. That's putting America first. So helping out our allies or getting them on board or working with NATO, that can be very, very helpful. Afterwards, we saw this massive standing ovation for I can't believe I just did that, for Secretary Rubio as he was done with his speech. We saw people enjoying it beforehand. Afterwards, were there a lot more meetings with the State Department, a lot more countries really happy about it? Or was it already people were excited about it because the U.S. has been such a leader, ending 8 wars, all the stuff they've accomplished on the international stage, growing Europe, making it stronger, making it better? What's the general reception like after the speech is over?
Well, I think you just hit the nail on the head in terms of all that's been accomplished by this administration beforehand. And you had critics saying, we're not accomplishing anything, nothing's happening. I mean, nothing could be farther from the truth. You mentioned the 8 conflicts that were ended. You mentioned all these different agreements that have already been struck. I mean, think of the rebalancing of trade. Think of working with all of our partners to end mass migration, to secure our borders, to combat the narco-terrorists. Think of the NATO spending that we've seen step up from our NATO allies that not only makes us safer, makes them safer as well, makes the entire NATO alliance better, and I think arguably means that President Trump has done more for the NATO alliance than any president since its founding. I mean, these are the results that have been delivered by President Trump under this administration, and I think what Secretary Rubio clearly outlined was the next steps in this. I mean, we also saw just before at the Munich Security Conference a critical minerals ministerial that was held at the State Department, the first of its kind, bringing together over 50 nations to the State Department in order to say, let's have secure supply chains. Let's not have a single point of failure when it comes to supply chains for the critical minerals that we need, everyone needs, in order to live modern life. We see Pax Silica, for example, which is a new partnership that's being led here from the State Department in order to address the challenges of AI, but also the opportunities of AI. So, I mean, I think that's a clear step in these directions. All that's been accomplished in historic administration already. And I think the standing ovation showed that there is an appetite to work with the United States. And there's more than an appetite, an enthusiasm to work with the United States because the United States is leading. And that's what America first, as you mentioned, truly means. America is leading. We're not ignoring these challenges. You don't solve problems by ignoring them. We're having the hard conversations. We're looking these challenges and problems straight in the face, and we're overcoming them so we can take advantage of the opportunities, lead into the future boldly, and not be afraid of what's to come. As Secretary Rubio said, the only fear we should have is leaving a nation that's less prosperous, less secure than the one that we have currently.
We're talking with Tommy Pidgeot, who is the Principal Deputy Spokesperson spokesperson for the U.S. Department of State. And I got to say, everything you just said, I couldn't agree with it more. I'm thrilled. It's been so long since we had something like this. I'm enjoying watching it. Usually I look at these things and I go, ugh, Europeans. But no, this was really great to watch. And today the Board of Peace is meeting also. What can you tell us about that? Because it seems like peace in the Middle East is actually at hand, is actually achievable. And now we've got buy-in from an economic perspective, which kind of eliminates all the inter-religion ethnic conflict that's plagued that area for so long.
Truly an unprecedented global coalition that President Trump has brought together. Of course, coming from that ceasefire announcement that we saw several months ago. But think of the tremendous progress that has been made since then. The fact that we have aid going into Gaza without it being looted by Hamas. The fact that we've seen all of the hostages be released. Things that people thought were impossible, President Trump has delivered on them. As the Board of Peace meeting outlined, there is still work to be done. But there is tremendous momentum to get there because of President Trump's leadership. And you hit on it yourself there in terms of the coalition that is being assembled here. All of the countries from around the world, this would have been unimaginable without President Trump. This would never have happened without President Trump. But because of his leadership, because of his vision, because he's willing to think outside the box, not be constrained by the failed frameworks of the past, he's seeing a problem, he's addressing it, and he's delivering on it. And this is an example of that. So we see the billions of dollars that were pledged. We see the personnel that were pledged. Tremendous momentum in order to implement this phase two. Like I said, still work to be done, but tremendous progress has been made because of President Trump's leadership.
Well, please tell both your bosses that I'm a huge, huge fan. I'm so thankful for everything they're doing. And they're doing an incredible, incredible job of putting America first, making America number one on the world stage, bringing about world peace, bringing about economic prosperity. Tommy Pidgett, Deputy Spokesperson for the State Department. Really appreciate you joining us today. Thank you so much.
Thanks for having me on.
Always a pleasure. We got a whole lot more to discuss as the show continues. You're listening to the Ari Hoffman Show on Talk Radio 570 KVI. Only good news to wrap up another amazing episode of the Ari Hoffman Show right here on Talk Radio 570 KVI. And this one, Mr. KVI is going to like. This one, according to Como News, the U.S. Postal Service yesterday unveiled a new forever stamp honoring Chinese-American martial artist and actor Bruce Lee, featuring an image of his iconic flying kick. Pretty cool, by the way, for anybody who still buys stamps. The stamp was dedicated during a ceremony at the Nippon Kan Theater in Seattle. Did I miss this? This was here locally?
I guess I missed it too.
I didn't even know we were doing this. Did I ever tell you Bruce Lee lived on my street in the house down the block from me?
I think you have told me that.
Yeah, so I'll retell it for the friends at home because I don't know if I've told anybody this before. Ruby Chow was very big in local politics.
Yeah, and she owned a restaurant in Chinatown, and he was one of the servers there when he first moved to Seattle.
Exactly. His family, apparently, before they got everything in order and got their own house, were living in her house. Her house was at the end of my block. My block has like 5 houses on it. That's it. It's a very tiny, very small little block. So years ago, they were selling the house, the one house. And I actually put an offer in on the house to buy it. Not because of Bruce Lee or anything, but it was a good piece of real estate. And actually, somebody outbid me for the house to tear it down and build this mega thing in its place. So actually, the first time I went over there with the new people who moved in, very nice people, I go, Bruce Lee used to live here. And they went, wait, what? I go, yeah, this was, in theory, built on what used to be the house that Bruce Lee first lived in when he came to the U.S. because it was Ruby Chow's house, told him the whole thing. Yeah, Ruby Chow actually has a park in Seattle, for those of you who don't know her. It's right at Boeing Field, right where the Blue Angels fly over. So where the homeless people are and where people watch the Blue Angels take off for Seafair, that's Ruby Chow Park, right there in Georgetown.
She was pretty politically active
as
well, right? So she was would oversee and deal with all things related to Chinatown International District.
She was huge on that.
Yeah.
Actually, there was this time when I first moved to, I think she was still alive. She was still alive when I first moved in. And I called up one time the city and I was trying to get a pothole fixed and it just wasn't being fixed. And I go, it's in front of Ruby Chow's house. Done. Like the next day. They had a crew out there fixing the thing. She was very politically active. So, according to the quote here, he was mesmerizing to watch. Unlike the theatrical, acrobatic kung fu that came before, Lee's movements were economical, explosive, and real, said Ben Koo, USPS Senior Vice President of Facilities and Infrastructure. Bruce Lee has earned this special tribute because he wasn't just an action film star who could fight. He was a philosopher who could think and a teacher who inspired millions. Lee's daughter, Shannon Lee, CEO of Bruce Lee Enterprises, also spoke at the event, saying his legacy is one of resilience, self-mastery, and flow that resonates and connects people across multiple demographics, which is why this stamp is such a profound, perfect touch point and true honor. Our family is deeply grateful to the USPS for choosing to recognize Bruce Lee, and we're excited to see his kicks flying all across the country on our mail. Born Lee Jun-fan in San Francisco in 1940, Lee rose to fame in Hong Kong before becoming Hollywood's first Asian-American leading man, according to USPS. USPS said the stamp was designed by USPS art director Antonio Alcala using an egg tempera painting by artist Cam Mack. The design features the black and white image of Lee accented with a yellow brushstroke referencing his film, The Game of Death. The Bruce Lee stamp is sold in panes of 20. As a forever stamp, it will always be equal in value to the current first-class mail 1-ounce rate, according to USPS. I was wondering when they were going to get around to that because the special stamps were never forever stamps. Those things, you had to buy like the 1-cent stamp or the 2-cent stamp to go with them. This is nice, by the way.
I remember when I was a kid, for a hot minute, being interested in stamps and then realizing, what am I doing? No offense to anyone out there who likes stamps, but it's what am I doing?
It's not my jam at all. In fact, my uncle told me a crazy story about my grandfather. So my grandfather, after he left the Navy and the JAG Corps and all that other stuff, I am pretty sure he was still active in the intelligence services. So he worked for Underwriters Laboratories. You know the UL you see in a circle on the back of appliances? Yeah. He worked for them. He was actually vice president of the company, and he would go on safety inspections around the world, and he was really big on photography. Now, I don't know if my uncle is pulling my leg with this story or if this actually happened, but he says that my grandfather went to Russia one time on a safety inspection, and you got to be thinking it's the Cold War at the time. Russia doesn't need us for safety inspections. And apparently he was taking pictures of a military parade just as a tourist, if you're there on a safety inspection where they bring out all the weapons and everything. Well, apparently he got caught at the airport and they took his film away and it got turned into a stamp. They liked one of his pictures so much. It got turned into some Russian stamp. That is what I have been told. That is the story, lore, and legend. I don't know if it's true. That's just what I was told by my uncle, who might be messing with me. But that is just the story I've heard about the stamp. That's what I hear. Other famous people who lived in my neighborhood, by the way, Jimi Hendrix. Jimi Hendrix's house was in South Seattle. His father's house was in South Seattle. And a friend of mine bought the house, didn't know it was Jimi Hendrix's house, found a box in the attic that had pictures of Jimi Hendrix and his father in the boxes in front of the house. Mm-hmm.
No way.
In front of the house. Now, may have been Jimi Hendrix's father's house. I don't know if he's estranged from the mother, whatever the story is. But yes, that house is on, is that Wilson or Seward Park Avenue, right? It's tall. That was tiny, small little thing. But yeah, apparently Jimi Hendrix's father's house was in our neighborhood too. My friend doesn't live there anymore, though.
Huh.
Yeah, things you learn every day.
Yeah, fun
learn
facts.
a little new thing you learn every day. Yeah, and the Bogey Lowenstein house from 10 Things I Hate About You is right next to the Jewish Old Age Home in Seward Park. That's going to do it for us today, my friends. Fear not, we will be back tomorrow with more insane stories, more exciting guests, and of course, more good news and who lives near Ari Hoffman. You've been listening to The Ari Hoffman Show on Talk Radio 570 KVI.